On May 16, 2024, Russian President Putin visited China by invitation. His schedule was very tight, with only 2 days for the trip. At 4 a.m., President Putin's Ilyushin Il-96-300 aircraft landed in Beijing. The video shows a female official, Chinese State Councilor Shen Yiqin, welcoming Putin. After a brief handshake, Putin walked down a warmly lit red carpet, escorted by the state guest guards and honor guards, heading to the Diaoyutai State Guesthouse. Why 4 a.m.? Many people find it hard to understand. I believe there might be several reasons. Firstly, the itinerary was extremely tight. In just 2 days, there was a need to deeply exchange views on international affairs, sign documents, participate in various activities, and travel to Harbin to give a speech and talk with students. If he arrived in the morning or afternoon, much of the day would be lost. As the president of Russia amidst turmoil, Putin is busier and under more pressure than we might imagine. Another consideration might be that arriving in Beijing at dawn means most Beijing residents are still asleep, avoiding the need for traffic control and not disrupting regular travel. Of course, I prefer to believe that Putin was eager for this visit, keen to align with China and confirm their strategic cooperation. Previously, when U.S. Secretary of State Blinken visited China, Putin stated he would make China his first visit of the new term. This time, media described the visit as being by invitation, signaling a goodwill interaction from China. Before his visit, Putin publicly declared that the unprecedented high level of the two countries' strategic partnership made him decide to choose China as the first country to visit after officially assuming the role of Russian president. Notably, this is his second consecutive first visit to China upon taking office and his 20th visit to China. To welcome Putin, a grand ceremony was held at the Great Hall of the People on the morning of May 16. The military band played the national anthems of Russia and China, a 21-gun salute was fired, and they jointly reviewed the Chinese People's Liberation Army Honor Guard. There were several meticulous arrangements. Besides Chinese children, Russian children living in China were also present, and the band played Moscow Nights in a march style. Such high-scale and respectful arrangements demonstrate China's importance placed on Putin's visit. Putin's visit to China also featured a formidable delegation. I believe Putin brought such a strong team not to see how strong China is, but to ensure the implementation of comprehensive cooperation, including the development of the Far East region. Russia lacks sufficient capability to develop the Far East, so joint development with China is a better option. Now, let's focus on the key point I want to share today, the detailed joint statement released after the visit. One particular point drew public attention. Both parties, China and Russia, agreed to engage in constructive dialogue with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on the issue of Chinese ships navigating the lower reaches of the Tuman River. This statement suggests that China, Russia, and North Korea might establish trilateral cooperation at the mouth of the Tuman River. For China, this would be another significant benefit after gaining the right to use the Vladivostok port for domestic trade. In recent years, as China rises on the international stage, its influence in Northeast Asia has become increasingly prominent. In this context, opening up the Tuman River estuary holds strategic significance. The Tuman River, as the border river between China and North Korea, has its estuaries controlled, directly affecting China's status and influence in Northeast Asia. However, due to historical and geographical reasons, China's control over the Tuman River estuary has been relatively weak, undoubtedly hindering China's greater role in the region. When discussing the revitalization of Northeast China, many people think of the Tuman River. People often wonder if smooth navigation of the Tuman River estuary would greatly improve the current situation in Northeast China. The issue of the Tuman River began in 1860, during the 10th year of the Xianfeng reign of the Qing dynasty. That year, China and Russia signed the Treaty of Beijing, ceding vast territories east of the Ushuri River to Russia. However, according to the agreement, China retained the mouth of the Tuman River and the land on the northern bank of the estuary. In 1862, during the border demarcation and marking process, Russia moved the boundary marker approximately 20 kilometers inland, causing China to lose access to the Tuman River estuary for the first time. It was not until over 20 years later that the Qing government discovered the issue. Officials such as Wu Daqin were sent to renegotiate the border with Russia. After vigorous efforts, China regained the right to access the Tuman River estuary through the signing of the Sino-Russian Treaty of Hunchun and the agreement on the Sino-Russian border survey. However, after the conflict between Soviet and Japanese forces at Zhangyufeng in 1938, both sides heavily fortified the area. The Japanese even set up hidden stakes in the river to block navigation, resulting in China losing access to the Tuman River estuary once again. After the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the relations among China, the Soviet Union, and North Korea experienced many ups and downs, causing intermittent progress in the boundary negotiations for the Tuman River estuary. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and South Korea, and other events, the issue of developing the Tuman River estuary re-emerged. However, a new problem arose with the Tuman River Bridge between Russia and North Korea. Built during the Korean War, this bridge was initially a wooden structure connecting the Soviet Hasan Railway and the North Korean Tuman River Railway. It was a crucial lifeline for Chinese and North Korean troops during the war. In 1959, the bridge was rebuilt as a railway bridge with 4 arches, of which only 3 are navigable. Additionally, the bridge's clearance above the river is only 11 meters, severely restricting the passage of large Chinese vessels, with a maximum navigable capacity of only 2,000 tons. China has proposed several reconstruction plans for the bridge to Russia and North Korea, but all have failed to come to fruition. Although, in theory, the Tuman River is open to navigation for China, North Korea, and Russia, the reality is different. After a related agreement was implemented in 1992, Russia only allowed seasonal fishing boats to pass through, barring commercial vessels. Thus, the theoretical right for China to navigate 1,000-ton class cargo ships through the Tuman River estuary remains unrealized. More importantly, without an area at the estuary to build a port, the transshipment and docking of large ocean-going vessels are merely theoretical. Both Russia and North Korea, with their long coastlines and numerous excellent ports on the eastern coast facing the Sea of Japan, have no interest or need to develop a port at the Tuman River estuary. Therefore, China still lacks access to the Sea of Japan. Although it is so close that it can be seen with the naked eye, it seems a world away. Thus, many believe that China, Russia, and North Korea engaging in constructive dialogue about Chinese ships navigating the lower reaches of the Tuman River is of great significance. What are the specific implications of this? Firstly, the economic boost for China is obvious. However, discussing it only from an economic perspective would be too superficial. Here are my thoughts on the matter. Undoubtedly, the first benefit is economic. If Chinese ships can freely navigate the Tuman River estuary, it will greatly boost the economic development of Jilin province. Currently, products from Jilin need to be transported by rail to ports like Dalian for export, which is time-consuming, costly, and inefficient. Using the Tuman River waterway for exports would directly open a maritime route to South Korea and Japan, significantly reducing shipping costs and time, thus boosting exports. This would not only allow goods from parts of Heilongjiang, Liaoning, and other areas of the 3 northeastern provinces to be exported via the Tuman River estuary but also increase their competitiveness in international markets. However, focusing only on economic value would overlook the greater significance of the Tuman River estuary. Its most significant value is actually its military strategic importance. The estuary is China's only maritime gateway facing the Sea of Japan. In the past, for the Chinese Navy to enter the Sea of Japan, it had to depart from the East China Sea or the Bohai Sea and pass through the Tsushima Strait between South Korea and Japan. In peacetime, this detour is acceptable, but in an emergency, the Chinese Navy might face joint naval blockades by South Korea and Japan if it tries to pass through the Tsushima Strait. In such situations, the Chinese Navy would have to move from the East China Sea towards the Western Pacific. On the other hand, Russia is currently bogged down in the Ukraine war, facing significant challenges in its Far East region. Russia's naval power in the Far East is somewhat overstretched. If China can use the Tuman River port to facilitate the entry and exit of warships, the situation would fundamentally change, significantly increasing military pressure on Japan, South Korea, and the U.S. forces stationed in those countries. Currently, China only has about 10 square kilometers of land at the Tuman River estuary, which is insignificant compared to the large area occupied by North Korea. This directly limits China's development space at this strategic location and constrains its strategic layout in Northeast Asia. During Putin's first visit to China in his fifth term, the recently released China-Russia joint statement finally included the most anticipated content. The Tuman River, located on the China-North Korea border, has a rich historical and cultural heritage. Originating from the Changbai Mountains, it flows through China and North Korea, eventually emptying into the Sea of Japan. The Tuman River basin boasts beautiful landscapes in clear waters. In ancient times, it was an important part of the Silk Road, witnessing friendly exchanges and prosperous trade between China and North Korea. We look forward to seeing this vibrant and charming river, after a century of vicissitudes, rejuvenate once again. That concludes today's discussion. See you next time.